So not too long ago, the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 in favor of Hobby Lobby's right as a private or closely held company to refuse certain medical coverage to their employees. The coverage in view was what, in Hobby Lobby's view and another company, would lead to abortions, the abortions of unborn human beings. And the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Hobby Lobby, saying this company has the right to a religious exemption from what is normal. And that's the first thing that should concern us with this ruling, because the ruling was viewed by some as very good and by others as very bad. How should we think about this from a biblical perspective? First of all, the thing to realize is the giving of a religious exemption to companies like Hobby Lobby demonstrates to us that the norm of our civil government is extremely unbiblical. The norm is that the civil government forces companies to provide their employees with medical coverage that allows those women, those female employees, to get abortions, to murder their unborn children. So that's where we're operating from. But the other thing to take from this is that the fact that the civil government is even involved in healthcare and in ensuring that healthcare is offered is in of itself unbiblical. According to Romans 13 and 1 Peter chapter 2, the magistrates exist to punish those who do evil and to praise those who do good. Their role is not to provide education or to provide health care to the citizens of the state. That's just not their role. And when they start to do that, you have what we have here in America, an unbiblical welfare state. When that happens, when the civil magistrate rejects God's word and what God's word says about the role of civil magistrate, you get, in our case, a welfare state, a tyrannical, socialistic welfare state, where the civil government has taken upon itself what God has not given it the right to do. And therefore we have taxes, unjust laws, and we are forced to prop up this welfare state. And the other thing to think about in this is that those that really oppose this decision, you might have seen pictures with signs saying that women's right, the bosses don't have the right to be involved in our private business. This is about women's freedom. It's really a misunderstanding of what freedom is in a nation. So the government has no place to tell a business owner, a business, what they ought to pay their employees. As I talked about previously about minimum wage, the civil government has no role in doing that. And likewise, the civil government has no role in telling a business what sort of coverage they ought to offer their employees. And so the freedom in question here has nothing to do with women's freedom. The freedom has to do with, does the civil government have the right to force upon a company what sort of compensation they give their employees? If a company says, we will pay you X amount of dollars and we will provide you with this type of medical care, which excludes these certain things, that is in no way taking away anyone's freedom. The person, the man or woman who chooses to work for that company, can just as easily say, I will not work for this company because I do not like what they're offering as compensation. This has nothing to do with women's freedom. If a woman working for Hobby Lobby does not like that Hobby Lobby doesn't offer the kind of health care that she would want, she's more than welcome. She's free to leave Hobby Lobby, to resign and find another employer. Now that does lead us to the other point, which is, should there be any employer which provides women with abortion, with the coverage that includes abortion? And that's what brings us to the only role that the civil government ought to have in this matter. The civil government should punish those who are murdering their unborn children via abortion. According to the Bible, the civil government's role is to punish those who do evil. The only evil being done in this whole scenario, other than the civil government's unbiblical involvement, the only evil is that women are, in many cases, murdering their children. And I'm not saying all of them are who are opposed to this, but that's certainly a factor in this. And the only role that the civil government should have is to punish those who are murdering their children and to obviously make that illegal, which sadly it's not in our nation. So think about the fact that we have a welfare state. In the newspaper, today's paper, the headline says that the Senate GOP blocks bill on free birth control coverage. So the fact that, yes, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Hobby Lobby for now, but there are still those in the civil government who are battling to get free birth control coverage, which includes abortion, to get that free coverage out. And whenever the government says they have to give something for free, it should be an immediate tip-off that something's going on here. The government's not supposed to provide us with education and healthcare and these things. That's not their role. So, and the other thing is, you know, did the judges that ruled in favor of Hobby Lobby, were they really operating from a biblical basis? Now, the decision, I think, is clearly good for Hobby Lobby, but it shouldn't even be at this point. It shouldn't be ruled as a religious exemption. This should be the norm, that the civil government has no involvement in this matter. But they ruled it as a religious exemption, saying that, you know, there's some small freedom left if you have a religious view. And this is the problem. When Christ is denied and he is not honored as he is Lord over all governments, family, church, and civil, then the magistrate thinks they have the right to determine what they should do, and then they have the right to give people exemptions, when it should be the norm that the civil government's not even involved in this. But if you read what Justice Alito, who ruled in favor of Hobby Lobby, said, he said that the government could still provide that coverage to the employees of Hobby Lobby. So understand where he's coming from. He's saying Hobby Lobby should have a right to not provide this coverage, but the government can pay for it and provide it. It's not really a victory if you think about it. The taxpayers are going to still end up paying for the abortion of unborn humans. And instead of Hobby Lobby offering that as one of their perks, the government will just step in and fill the void with taxpayer money. So you have to keep that in mind. This justice was not ruling based on a biblical standard. Now, to the degree that it lines up with God's word, we rejoice, and I'm thankful that Hobby Lobby doesn't have to offer this. But this is not a major victory. This demonstrates the unbiblical role that the civil government is playing, and we need to call them back to a submission to the limited role that God's word calls for them. The only role they should have in this is punishing those who are murdering their children and seeing that companies honor their contracts. What they choose to pay their employees, what they choose to offer is up to them, and that's it. So keep that in mind as you follow this. I suspect that those in support of free healthcare and free abortion services are going to keep pushing this, and this is definitely a more national issue, but it certainly is going to hit close to home. So I'll keep you updated as things advance.